Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. So, hopefully, everyone is doing well. Going to give people a few minutes to come into the room. While you guys are coming into the room, let me go ahead and thank my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting my content. A special thank you to my VIP patrons, Ray and Daniel. Thank you all for supporting my content. Also, if you would like to purchase merch, I have the link available below in my description box. All right, y'all. So, tonight we're gonna talk about a couple of different things. Some things that I find important that, like, nobody's really talking about. I don't think in a. I mean, maybe people are talking about it, y'all, but with some of this impending or it's kind of already happening inflation, what we're possibly well already seeing in some states with the housing market, and you have, I feel like on one side, Republicans that are in a lot of ways ignoring or not talking about in a holistic way some of the things, particularly I would say millennials are looking at as far as financially that are not being discussed. And then you have Democrats who oftentimes, a lot of times, create some of these problems and then hype themselves up to look like the solution. And then a lot of times you have a lot of these people on the back end still both playing for the corporations. And we're going to talk about that tonight because we're going to talk about what's going on with American Airlines. You have, I can't remember the name of the company that is sweeping in, buying up all of these homes and things like that. You have the freaking Bill Gates and all these other people that are buying up so much like farmland, and it's just a lot. So we're gonna get into that. I'm gonna break it down a little bit more. We're gonna talk about it. Hey to everybody coming into the room. Hey Black Introvert. Hey Bruce the Boss. Hey King BJ. Hey Edward. Hey Shavette. Like that. Wait, sound like that. Sorry, I had to do it. That was so corny, but I couldn't help myself. But anyway, so yeah, y'all, let's go ahead and jump into this. So first of all, I have to mention that I know y'all have seen the pictures of George Floyd, the new sculptures. So last week we talked about Juneteenth. We talked about, the symbolism aspect of it. We talked about how this was going to be used um as going further. You got people up here grilling watermelon, talking about some, oh, this is so, this is a key to Juneteenth and the African American delectable diet of the historical perspective of the black man in his natural habitat. Okay, look, I'm exaggerating, but not really. You know what I mean? It's already kind of a little bit getting out of hand. But as y'all gonna see going forward, you're gonna see a lot more symbolism, and you have a lot of missed opportunities for people to actually address some real issues, because we about to be looking at even more so economic and financial disparities. Um, and you get George Floyd statues. Y'all know my position on that. Obviously, most people with any common decency think that George Floyd's death and the way that happened was absolutely appalling. However, we cannot deny the way that a lot of people use this as an opportunity to grift, to pander, symbolic gestures, and all these other things. And I've talked about that and gone into depth and on that in previous videos, so I don't want to rehash that. But this is another example of people getting what, like, just most people didn't ask for. And then on some regards, I think it's a little weird. I think it's a little creepy. This man was turned into a martyr by proxy, and was just trying to, get home or go on about his life. Not only that, you represent him in a wife beater, okay, which, first of all, let's look at the negative connotations of a freaking wife beater. That is what he had on during the altercation. But to be remembered or represented as he was in his dying, almost very vulnerable, most vulnerable moment, it's just not a good look. And then also, I think it gives fodder to the people that were already speaking so negatively, don't see this human or certain humans in particular worthy of grace, redemption, and things like that. Okay. So yeah, kind of crazy, and not really addressing, I don't know. I don't know. So I guess some people gonna sit up there and take pictures with the stat. I don't know. It's just a lot of people uh, were used in 2020 emotionally for corporations, politicians. I mean, that's really just what it comes down to. And we're going to talk about that tonight, even more going into the economic side of it. And why I relate that is because even that, right, is just kind of more symbolism. Joe Biden passing this Juneteenth legislation. I don't think it takes legislation to validate what you feel about something, but however, passing this legislation to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, but you're on live TV and you don't even know about the holiday or what it represents. And the funny part about that is that's the that's literally the representation of what that means to politicians. Like that is literally the definition of how that played out. Oh, I'm gonna sign this as a symbolic gesture, but not only do I not know about this, I don't really care. I don't really care. Um so anyway, y'all, like right now I feel like I'm having deja vu. This is really weird. Okay. But anyway, so if y'all didn't know, um recently there's been some stuff going on with American Airlines. So let's look at this article, and then we're going to talk about this. And then we're going to talk about a lot of missed opportunities, which may not even be missed opportunities for politicians. Maybe they're all doing this on purpose, and they're all just screwing us on purpose and going casually on with their lives. And all of these, things behind the scenes are just kind of adding up. And, just nobody cares because we move on with what's ever trending. So this is according to Business Insider. American Airlines has canceled hundreds of flights due to staffing shortages and maintenance issues. Okay. American Airlines has canceled hundreds of flights scheduled for the weekend and Monday due to staffing shortages, including employees out sick as well as maintenance issues, ABC News reported Sunday. The company canceled 123 flights scheduled for Saturday, 178 for Sunday, 97 for Monday. This just goes on and on and on. We made targeted changes with the goal of impacting the fewest number of customers by adjusting flights in markets where we have multiple options for reaccommodation. The first few weeks of June have brought unprecedented weather to our largest hubs, heavily impacting our operation and causing delays, cancel flights, and disruptions to crew members' schedules and our customer planes. American, the world's largest airline, said it also may continue to cancel at least 50 to 60 flights per day during the remainder of June, and 50 to 80 flights per day in July, but that it will try to notify customers far ahead of their scheduled flight. So Here you have American Airlines, okay, canceling these flights, inconveniencing people, as a lot of people, believe it or not. I don't know if you're one of those people that are still hiding, in your closet because you're so freaking scared of COVID, and you have your mask and your gloves and maybe your double mask, okay? However, you have a lot of people, believe it or not, out here slowly, I don't even know if I could say slowly, but returning to um real life. Okay, I was one of those people, and I never hid this from y'all. I was very forthcoming about this during the entire 2020. I traveled, quite possibly I probably traveled more in 2020 than I ever had before. um it was still a lot going on. I was out here getting opportunities. I was out here having fun. Not only that, the flights were cheap during that time. I was able to upgrade to they have those little like airline memberships where you can like upgrade your seats and all this kind of stuff. So because of the amount of flights that I took, you have people out here getting back to life, and for some reason American Airlines is not caught up. Now, why I find this, I want to say funny, but actually outrageous, is because, and this is a thing that's not being mentioned, and you don't really have people talking about this. Okay, you have American Airline, who was one of the recipients, airlines in general being some of the main recipients of government funding last year during the COVID lockdowns. Okay. American Airline in particular, I believe, received 12 billion. Was it 12 billion? And airlines overall received, like, I don't know, maybe like quadruple that. I think my numbers are correct. I think about 12 billion. I do know that airlines uh laid off about 30,000 people, and then you had the CEO of American Airlines taking in about 11 million last year, right? Now, this a lot of these bills and funding bills that were passed were during the Trump administration. You guys know that during last year, I was very vocal, particularly with that last bill, um before Trump left office, and it was this whole hoopla about, oh, he's putting red lines under this and under that, and telling them to take out this, and this is 40 chess, and y'all just don't know any better. And I'm like, y'all still don't get it. You still don't get it. So during a Republican presidency, okay, because this is you can say what you want. You can, oh well, this is what really happened. This is what it really is. This is what is going to be on paper, and this is what people are going to remember. Okay? During a Republican presidency, a lot of what we saw happen led to, I mean, you're looking at trillions of dollars added in debt. You're looking at impending inflation. You're looking at just created the freaking smooth path for Joe Biden to just come in there and do whatever he wants to do, and possibly, you know, exacerbate some of these things that were already happening and set in motion. So now you have regular, everyday people, middle class people, once again being inconvenienced, while your government officials, your politicians seem, especially federally on a national level, to always scoop in and save the freaking corporations. And nobody calls it out in a real way. Nobody calls it out in a real way. Democrats run on this anti-corruption, anti-corporation, halfway want to be stand beside, rub elbows with the eat the rich, uh, uh, progressives, right? And yet, same things happen. You will have Republicans that will practically turn a blind eye, particularly last year, sign the bills on a freaking dotted line, fail to fire or get any type of hold of Dr. Fauci, which really helped exacerbate a lot of the foolishness. Now time has elapsed, and now that people are done calling me a grandma killer, you see that majority of the time what we were saying about Dr. Fauci not really maintaining a standard, and some of these things just being outright lies now coming to fruition, right? Now being said, oh well, I had to say that, or I didn't mean it like that, or oh, this was really the truth. And people kill me. People kill me. 9 times out of 10, the people that talk about the culture war, I'm at the point where I don't know, I get tired of like even hearing that term sometime, because usually most of the time the people that say that have no actual interest in even addressing the freaking culture war. like not in a real way, not in a holistic way, not in a way that actually matters to young voters, which are going to be a very and already are a very important voting block. And people have the nerve to get mad, have the nerve to get mad when people talk about socialism, when people talk about reparations, when people talk about the wealth gap and economic disparities, without calling out the freaking corporatism. Is it any is it any secret? Is it so bewildering that people would see last year and go like, hmm, capitalist president, Republican president, looks like a freaking failure of capitalism to me. These are missed opportunities for talking about what words actually mean, and the things that have benefited us and the things that have not. And a lot of these problems that people aren't talking about or aren't really talking about, like for example, right? I'll tell you exactly what I mean. So I tweeted, this was like a couple of months ago, and uh, I tweeted, what is the conservative solution? I think that's what I said. What is the conservative solution to people, or to the $15 minimum wage? That was my question. It was worded something like that. Not so oddly as I'm saying it now, but I think y'all will get my point. So people would come in, they would say stuff like, in the Fed, gold standard, reel in the national debt, deregulate, right? And I'm like, oh, that sounds cute to somebody that's not in a downward spiral, heavily impacted by last year, currently not working, or currently not being beat over the head by inflation, not having to worry about freaking Bill Gates or these other people buying up your whole freaking block. The answers are just, it's not. So we have I believe this was the Business Insider or Forbes, already talking about that they feel like this worker shortage is going to be permanent, right? Now, think about that. Think about that, right? The worker shortage is going to be permanent. So, in some regards, one of the benefits we're going to see going forward as people go back to work is that workers are needed. You can decide more where you want to work. And then you have people that are going to, as we've already seen, they're going to raise the benefits. They're going to raise the wage to attract workers and be more competitive, right? That's one of the upsides. However, something that we are not talking about is, first of all, how this is going to affect or impact not illegal immigration, right? Not only that, uh you have a population issue that's currently happening and is going to get worse that people are not talking about. And this is one of the things that they're projecting moving forward in this shortage of labor, is that we are not replenishing the population at the same rate. One of the main issues facing the younger generation, college debt. College debt. And even when people bring this up, it's either eliminate college debt, which, does it seem like that's happening to y'all? It doesn't seem like it's happening to me. You can pretend and act like, oh, Dems are just going to get rid of everybody's college debt. It's not happening, okay? Do we really think that even Democrats that are snuggled up with the corporations and love creating debt slaves are gonna just come in and give anything, particularly for free? No, I don't see that happening, right? So on one hand, you'll have, oh, the Democrats, they'll say that to get in office, oh, we're just gonna get rid of college debt. And then on the other hand, you will have Republicans that just want to almost like ignore it and how it is going to affect the country moving forward. Some of these things are interconnected, and our failure to talk about them holistically in a way that's palatable, uh um somewhat easy to understand for everyday voters, and not these freaking talking points. Not the freaking talking points. They don't really resonate with people. And so when I look at these things, and things were already kind of shaky, right? We already had a high national debt. Population was already declining. Okay, you already have the influx of robotics. Y'all are going to see that more and more and more. I just posted something on Instagram the other day. They're about to start having robots taking your order at the drive-through. Who's talking? Who's really talking about how we are going to um handle that? It's like it's either way talking points, or everybody's turning a blind eye. And I am of the belief that it is going to exacerbate a lot of the bad things, not the good things, for people's absolute failure and or refusal to talk about these things. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think some of the politicians don't care. They don't care. Their pockets are lined. All they got to do in 2020 prove this to us. All they got to do is tell you something that somewhat sounds good to you, or use a tragedy, right? And just, it's almost like when kids used to run for like class president, and they'll be like, we're gonna have pizza every day, we're gonna have chocolate milk coming out of the water fountains, and they get in and none of that happens, right? um so a lot of these areas, I don't know. I just feel like, it's about to get real. It's about to get bad for a lot of people, especially as you have in a lot of states this unemployment that's about to end. You have where the student loans are going to be kicking back in soon. You have the rent for a lot of these people is about to kick in, and you have a lot of people that's behind, and it's really unfortunate that you do have a lot of people. I feel like we're tricked. If y'all remember, at the beginning of the freaking lockdowns, they were telling us that being anti-lockdown, even in the economic sense, and we're going to go into talking about this tonight, because this is like full circle, and it's really crazy, because even Joe Biden is coming out now, oh, we're going to crack down on extremism. Y'all, a lot of this was a setup. It was a setup, and we're going to talk about it, so just keep following me. um But we were literally being, I will never forget this, because I remember being one of the only people to talk about this, because our national media was trying to hide it from us. These people are an enemy of the people. And if you haven't figured it out yet, I don't know what it's going to take. But at the beginning of the lockdowns, they were literally in America telling us that anti-lockdowns, just the idea of being anti-lockdown was like white supremacy and white extremism. And literally in South Africa, during the same exact time, you had hundreds of people protesting the lockdowns, saying like, we can't live like this, we're not making money, our kids are gonna starve. Even now today, if you look at the numbers globally of the number of children that have went into poverty and are starved or at starvation levels, is astronomical. It's astronomical. But this is what happens when you're so in your bubble. And in some aspects, it is a little privilege there. It is some American privilege there. Because even, they'll make you believe, even when it comes to other, even when it comes to other, I just thought about uh this student that I used to talk to. And I think she was in China, and she would have me cracking up, because she would be bringing up some of the stuff that would be in American media, and she would just be like, I think y'all kind of crazy, like we don't even be thinking about y'all like that. But that's another story. But anyway, they'll have us in this bubble thinking, oh, this is the way it is, like anti, like we're gonna like I said, we're gonna talk about this, even going into the domestic terrorism thing, because they will continuously use racism as, oh, we're trying to save you from the white supremacists. And then when you go and read the freaking talking points, I mean, when you go and read the actual bullet points, it's like, huh? they will sell it to you. They will package it so fast in racism because they know it's a very emotional, hot button topic. In a moment you read the fine print, it's like, wow. It's like, wow. And depending on how far this thing goes, y'all know I was anti-lockdown from the very freaking beginning. And I don't just say this stuff to y'all. Like, I live it. So if I say, hey, I'm anti-lockdown, then I'm getting on the plane. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to work. I'm going to do what I got to do. Even where I was working that time last year, I think we got 3 to 4 weeks off, and my boss was like, "Oh, y'all got to come on back to work now. You done had enough time. Come on back to work. If you need to put on your little mask, put on your little mask, and come on back." I didn't work for a white supremacist. I worked for a black woman in a small company, about 10+ people. But the news, they don't tell you that. They don't. Whole black staff. And we just working away, and our numbers at that time skyrocketed because you had these other people that, hey, y'all want to lose money, let the business come on to us. And business was absolutely booming, people all in and out the door. Meanwhile, right, because I'm in Mississippi, right, but meanwhile, looking at the numbers federally, about 50% of black-owned businesses close their doors, possibly not returning. So a lot of this comes back to very just forward thinking principles. And why do I have to sit at home? Why does the black woman business owner that I was working for at the time, why does she have to sit at home and freaking I was finna say Jeff Zuckerberg, but Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and the Walton family, they get to keep being up and booming. And then you turn around and look on a federal level, a national level, and there was a Republican signing on the dotted lines, handing money over to the airlines. The airlines were never shut down. People could still fly. The airlines weren't shut down. People were just scared. People were scared to go out because of the things that Dr. Fauci was saying, the things that Trump was co-signing or okay with them saying, and the things some of the governors were saying. And so we're going to have to reckon with this. And the reckoning is coming soon. And when you add that on top of some of the problems that were already being exacerbated, and you have people even either halfway talking about it from pre-packaged talking points, or turning a completely blind eye to it. And then you have, let's say you have a small a black business owner who may have been in a city or a state, and was either people were too scared to come there because of what the governors were doing, what they were seeing on the TV and things like this. And it's like, well, I'm going to need some help because I'm out of business. This was a really, really, really bad recipe. And what I wish would have happened, right? We saw some states that did really well, particularly like you had Florida and you had Texas. When those states were first opening up, I think this was back in like August, September. You had people saying, oh, they're Nazis. Of course, they had to throw in there, oh, they don't care about black people. Y'all know they, we got to make it serious. They don't care about black people. They don't care about the essential workers, you know. And which I never understood. I never understood how that even went together. But anyway, uh and oh, you're so many people are gonna die, and so many people are gonna die, and all these other things. We saw that did not happen. We saw that we saw that 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 did not happen in those states, right? And I know in a lot of ways those states did well, and even now I really am going to have to look a little bit deeper into the actual economics and statistics and the job rates and things like that. These areas, unfortunately, when you had a media, uh, and like I said, in some ways, federally, we're not really uh, elevated. These governors, in some regards, having to kind of like stand alone, seeming very fragmented. Oh, this is what's happening in Florida. This is what's happening in Texas. We need to talk about that a lot more. And that actually needs to be pushed to the forefront of the discussion, particularly going into 2022 and 2024. Like, don't let people forget that even beginning with the COVID lockdowns, you had the freaking pictures with people falling out in the streets, people being boarded up in their homes in China, right? You had, like I said, in August and September, when some of these states were reopening, oh, there's so many people gonna die, you're gonna kill so many people. um so hopefully, as time goes on, we will have more people that really kind of step forward and stop rubbing elbows or running cover for the corporations. Because you're gonna have some people that even are gonna look back at that and be like, oh, well, you had all these companies with these bailouts still laid off people, and oh, your citizens only got like, I think 1,200, was it like $1,200 checks. How do y'all think that's gonna be packaged going into 2022 and 2024? And instead of people talking about it, getting ahead of it, having almost like real time sensible solutions for people concerned, some people who, like, we're just impacted by others' decisions, put out of a job. And so let's start talking about how this even rolls into now. Cause y'all know I had concerns about some of the videos we were seeing coming out with January 6th. And it looked as if in some of the videos there were officers or security or whoever were at the Capitol almost escorting people. I don't know if y'all have seen these videos, and I think I've showed them in previous lives. Almost as if escorting people into the Capitol. Now, the odd thing about that, right, is because first of all, they knew it was going to be crowds of people there gathering on that day. And the lapse and failures in security is very concerning, or could be very concerning, especially when you're looking at, Capitol Hill, DC, and things like that. Now, when you combine that with people possibly being escorted in, and they swoop in, and that's what they're going to do, swoop in and save you with the legislation. And then because now you got to save us from the white supremacy that happened on January 6th. And now when you start looking at the legislation, it's like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to put in place? And so we've seen these things happen previously, right? With like the Patriot Act and things like that. So this is according to PBS.org. The Biden administration says it will enhance its analysis of threats from domestic terrorists, including the sharing of intelligence with law enforcement agencies, and will work with tech companies. This is very important. Very important. Tech companies to eliminate terrorist content online as a part of a nationwide strategy to combat domestic terrorism. The National Security Council on Tuesday released a strategy plan which comes more than 6 months after a mob of insurgents loyal to then President Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol as Congress was voting to certify Joe Biden's presidential win. Countering domestic terrorism to address this challenge to America's national security and improve the federal government response. Domestic terrorism is not a new threat in the United States, yet it is a threat Americans have endured too often in recent years. The comprehensive strategy provides a nationwide framework for the U.S. government and partners to understand and share domestic terrorism related information, prevent domestic terrorism recruitment and mobilization to violence, disrupt and deter domestic terrorism activity, and confront long-term contributors to domestic terrorism. Our approach will protect both the nation and the civil liberties of its citizens. Under the federal law, domestic terrorism is defined as activities that involves acts dangerous to human life that are a violation of the criminal laws of the United States or any state, appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence a policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the conduct of government by, and this goes on. And I'm going to link this below if y'all want to read the entire thing. But this has a fact sheet, right? And that basically says they're going to tackle racial or ethnically motivated violent extremists who advocate for the superiority of the white race. And okay, because no, most people are not going to. Decent human beings are going to be like, oh, okay, we don't want violent extremists, freaking white supremacists running around. Okay, cool, right? That's how they get you. That's how they bait you in. Oh, but just keep reading, there's more. Anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists, such as militia violent extremists, right? So this talks about this in some ways, and they have a breakdown of it. But I wanted to break down a little bit more, okay? Some of the things that are domestic violent extremism, okay? So, of course, top of the list, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists. So, radical ideas, bias, things like that. All right. Anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremists. So, ideological agendas derived from anti-government or anti-authority sentiment, including including opposition to perceived economic, social, or racial hierarchies, or perceived government overreach, negligence, or illegitimacy. So all the BLM, progressive, uh, uh, want to think that you're not included in this, want to think that you're safe because you weren't, or your people or your group or whatever the case may be wasn't there on January 6th, you're wrong. You're wrong. Just like I did content previously, months ago, particularly right around the time that Joe Biden's inauguration, so many people were being censored across the aisle. And then all of a sudden, because this is usually how it works, people are so cool when it's not them, when it's not their team. No, have a freaking standard. Stand for what's right all the time. I'm so tired of, and I talked about this, we talked about this last week, the whole, oh, back and forth, oh, on the libs, oh, well, even the idea that, oh, well, it's okay for Trump to be banned from social media. But then when it started being super lefty, progressive people, particularly as the inauguration was getting to happen, now it's a mouth drop. Now it's confusing. Now it's too much. Now it's not fair. And this is why time and time again, you will have stuff like the Patriot Act that will happen and that will end up affecting all of us because it's no standard. It's no standard. And the crazy thing about it is, right in time, just coincidentally, Black Lives Matter is kind of fading out of the picture and being dismantled. People actually think, I saw somebody tweeting today, I think they're doing an audit on that the lady, like the CEO or whoever, founder of Black Lives Matter. And I saw somebody saying, oh, well, this is what she deserves because anybody that makes a living off the back of black bodies and does this with the money deserves whatever they're getting. And I'm thinking, like, this is planned. This is planned. And you and I, we already talked about this last year. We talked about this in 2020. We talked about eventually this was coming. But literally, BLM and a lot of people, not just BLM, and I say BLM because they've been kind of like the most notable in recent history, but do freaking Antifa people think they're going to be immune to this? Really? Opposition to perceived economic, social, or racial hierarchies or perceived government overreach, negligence, or I can't say the word, y'all. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Militia violent extremists. Resisting or facilitating to overthrow the U.S. government in support of the belief that the U.S. government is purposely exceeding its constitutional authority and is trying to establish a totalitarian regime. Okay, oppose many federal and state laws and regulations. Anarchists. Okay, those who oppose all forms of capitalism. And I never knew anarchist, the actual definition of anarchist, to oppose capitalism. I don't know, but capitalism, corporate globalization. Do y'all hear? These are the people. I cannot believe, man. Like, liberals, what liberal actually used to mean when definitions were important. Liberals were people that believed in like liberty, like I don't want to be bothered by the government. I don't want the government overreaching. And a lot of times now we see these people. I was about to say that in an ugly way. I'm not gonna say it. I'll say we see these people uh bowing down to, okay, corporations, big pharma, and things like that, right? And during election time, the crazy part about it is, you'll have these people that, I say the word pretend, because then when stuff like actually happens, the standard is never there, right? But you'll have these people, oh, eat the rich, oh, anti-corporatism, oh, this and that, oh, Joe Biden is the closest thing we have to a progressive agenda. And then freaking Joe Biden says he don't even want y'all opposing corporate globalization. Like, you know. Governing institutions which are perceived as harmful to society. Governing institutions, police, law enforcement, all right, sovereign citizens, violent extremists, abortion related violent extremists, animal rights, environmental violent extremists. So at this point, it's like people get what they allow. You get what you didn't keep a standard about. You get what they're coming for you. It's just not your turn. Joe Biden is, and I said this during the election, even when, people were trying to act otherwise on both sides of the aisle. On both sides of the aisle. Joe Biden is and has never been anti-police. These people say this to get in office. They say this to appear favorable to maybe young voters, naive voters, living in la la unicorn land voters that don't know any better. And yet, you're going to have Joe Biden ramp up federal policing, because that's what this is. Federal policing, censorship. They're gonna work with the tech agencies that y'all said it was okay. You said they can do whatever they want. It's what were people saying? Uh, it's their platform. They can do whatever they want. Y'all think it was bad before? The whole January 6th thing just created and bubbled over the excuse for them to come in and save us for white supremacy, which is just a swooping net. It's a swooping net. Will you catch a little bit of that in there? I mean, sure, it could happen. However, it's a big net. And a lot of the stuff that people would like to believe that they stand for is going to get caught up in that net as well. We should have never allowed a situation, and y'all will remember me saying this as clear as day. Trump should have came down so hard on those freaking tech agencies. I mean, that was the time. I don't know if we'll ever have that type of discussion about censorship, freedom of speech, the role that big tech plays, the role that the media plays. I don't know if we'll ever have that opportunity again, particularly in the next few years. He was the first person to really call it out and bring so much attention to it. And uh, attention means nothing if you don't do anything about it, if nothing changes. And now this just made it super easy for Joe Biden to come right in, swoop right on in, and say, hey, we're about to work with these tech agencies to censor anti-government, anti-capitalism. But I thought during election time, Joe Biden was so anti-police, so anti, he the closest thing to a progressive agenda. We've been lied to. We've been lied to. And a lot of this stuff is interconnected. A lot of this is full circle. A lot of this, while Joe Biden was rubbing elbows with the eat the rich people for the young voter cool points, y'all think while they're advancing, rubbing, Joe Biden real cool with big pharma, and you think he won't work with tech to protect these people? They're telling you. They're not even hiding it. Will people actually talk about it? Talk about it in a holistic way? Talk about it in a forward thinking way? Talk about it in, I don't care who this affects, what side of the aisle, this is our standard type of way? I mean, we just slid into a lot. We just slid right into home base. A lot of the a lot of the stuff we're about to see, socially, economically, naturally, criminally, uh, uh, as it relates to impacting freedoms, censorship and speech and things like that, slid right into it. And so apparently some of the things I say online could make me an extremist, right? I mean, according to that definition we just read, not the violent part. I'm not violent, I'm peaceful. However, it doesn't start at the violence. And that's another thing that people either aren't going to realize, most people aren't going to realize or will overlook the fact that, oh, well, if you not violent, if you're not a bad person, you don't have anything to worry about. But it's already happening. It's already happening. Look how they did that one lady, that black doctor lady, and a lot of those doctors, I can't remember the name of the group, but the doctors that were trying to come out trying to, blow the cover on the whole hydroxychloroquine, the COVID thing. Some of these people were harassed. uh uh they tried to take their licenses away, tried to discredit them, silenced, removed. And you could be the freaking bearer of truth at this point. And if it doesn't align with the mainstream media agenda, that they're getting you out of there. So you think there's an echo chamber now? And this is why, like when people get into, like, when people get into just the discussions that don't really, if you're not protecting the actual human rights, if you're not protecting the actual human rights, what is all, like, this other stuff doesn't matter. If the majority of the country is in economic downturn, And people want to focus on just super frivolous, back and forth stuff that does not matter. The frontline doctors, thank you. But when we have the opportunities to talk about the ability to protect ourselves, the ability to own firearms, the ability to protect our property and the things that we've worked super hard for, the ability to say what we want, right? And the ability to be free from a coercive and overreaching government. And then once we all done that, to create, maintain, and sustain an environment that is everybody can work and succeed, and you are not putting the needs and the wants of freaking American Airlines and Jeff Bezos over the small company that I was working for, then what are we even talking about here? You know, Dr. Simone Gold and Dr. Stella Emanuel. Hey, Brooke. Jupiter said all fun and games when the truth revealed, and people now looking at us as conspiracy theories as golden light. Sometimes I kind of go back and forth with myself as like, I don't even know. I think that the media has done such a huge psyop that some people, I don't think within themselves they're objective enough to be like, dang, some of the conspiracies were real. I think you have some people that are still just completely so jaded and just whacked out by their addiction to the narratives and what the media is saying. And then these people are also crazy enough to make themselves believe that they're the anti-establishment people. That be the confusing part to me. You know. But thank you, Andre, for the super chat. Um, but hopefully, y'all are doing some things to kind of help with the incoming inflation. Like I said, you have a lot of these corporations, you have a lot of these key players, these billionaires and stuff, buying up so much land, and like, who's talking about it? And I mean, we can only imagine years from now if people aren't really talking about it, and before you know it, the same people that people were saying they were gonna eat with the whole eat the rich thing, they done split up the world, split up the country in four quadrants between the key players, because everybody else was too distracted with stuff that was like, Randy said it is their new reset they're pushing. And the crazy part about it is like they're still going forward with it. And it's just happening in like little sectors and little sections, right? With the censorship, with the still have so much of the country not working. Um with the trying to impede on our medical autonomy, right? This whole idea that the between the corporations, and I told y'all they're the main people. They're the main people. And why do capitalists uh, not think or rarely speak out about the corporations and what they're doing, or not finding a solution to discuss this? Because it's going to be blamed on capitalism. That's the narrative. That's going to be majority of people's understanding, right? So anyway, um uh what was I saying? But they're pushing forward. Even I was saying, watch out for the corporations, right? Because some of the stuff the politicians that don't even have to do. They don't even have to do when you can have an American airline to be bailed out, and then possibly down the line, an American airline can come in and say, "All right, to get on our plane, you have to have a freaking vaccine pass. You have to have a vaccination passport." And then in some ways, you had the politicians, they signed off on it. They propped these people up. Same way with tech agencies. You can't talk about that here. You can't take your conspiracy theory somewhere else, even though Google owns 80-90% of the entire internet. So if Google say you can't talk about it, you practically can't talk about it. Take your conspiracy theories somewhere else, and then you will have politicians protecting the tech agencies with Section 230. You know. But I'll call it out, and I'll say I can simultaneously think that people should be able to make money. People should be able to work. People should be able to compete. People should be able to build. But let's not ignore how y'all run and cover for these corporations. A lot of the times, this is what we're not gonna do. Both things can be true. Both things can be, yeah, I think I want to be able to work at this small company, and if you're gonna close us down, you Walton and his family got to go too. They're not more essential than my family. I don't think so. They're not more essential than my community. Compared to who? Compared to what standards? And even to create that standard or say so is imbalanced. It's not right. It's not right. I don't believe, and nobody should believe, that these people are more important than us. They deserve to fail. The government ain't gonna swoop in to save you like that, to rub elbows with you like that. So let's get some of that to go around. So these things can all be true, but people just want to nitpick or call out, oh, well, these are the talking points from my side, so I'm going to stay away from that. And, so, but people gonna feel it. Everyday people, if you don't feel it now from the gas prices, you already got groceries going up, you're gonna feel it. And you're gonna feel it soon, and your kids are gonna feel it, and your grandkids are gonna feel it, and your great grandkids are gonna feel it. Especially if we don't start talking about these things in a relatable way for some of these younger generations, because they're gonna be, unfortunately, looking to the same people that created the problems to fix the problems. Because when you see what you're seeing, it's like, well, what other solution am I being presented? So, just some things to think about. This domestic terrorism thing, it kind of worries me. I liken it to the Patriot Act. I think, we're going further and further, and it happens slowly. It happens slowly, inch by inch. It's going to be more censorship. It's going to be more um, spying, spying on citizens. It's going to be, everything's going to be connected with the corporations. You already see that happening through social media. They're linking your credit cards to your internet activity, right? You can buy something at the store, you get online, and next thing you know, they're promoting it or trying to sell it to you. um the censorship, the spying, privacy issues, medical freedom and medical autonomy issues. When you have nurses, these are people that work in the medical field saying, I don't want it. I do not want the the vaccination, and not being given an option. And it's like, now you got to choose between your livelihood and an experimental injection. The government doesn't have to do it if the corporations are going to do it, if the medical industry is going to do it, if the oil field industry is going to do it, if the airlines are going to do it, if the schools are going to do it. And like I talked about previously, there's no more foundational way to say that you and your body belong to the government than making something that you inject into your veins mandatory. Even to suggest that suggests ownership. Ownership is slavery. That's what it is by definition. Literally, the literal definition. They love to say black this, black that, racism this, racism that. I bet they don't make that connection on your nightly news. I bet they don't call that racism. The idea that the government would even push the injecting of something, particularly experimental, the injecting of it into your physical human body. So, just some things to think about, y'all. I am going to get out of here. As always, thank you to everyone for rocking with me on Tuesdays. Thank you to my patrons for supporting my content. Thank you to my VIP patrons, Ray and Daniel. Thank you to Andre that sent the Cash App. If you would like to purchase merch, their link is below and in my description box. And all right, y'all, we'll be talking soon. Have a good night. Bye.